can see here is the TPROP, MG, and NSC was significantly better than other two methods in all three areas. And within that, we also want to know that MEP, NEUM is a mature neuron marker, which MAP is also another mature neuron marker. We can see this really directly significantly improved NSC MGE. They improved the stem cell, significantly improved the stem cell the function by preserve more neurons at 1 month after that. So with that, and the brain, there's a little bit different. The brain, the importance is electrophysiology, function for the neurons to transfer. This is a major, if the brain cell was survived, but there's no function, that's useless. So we tested that is a synapse. Synapse is the cell function, neuron function, so they can transfer the signals from one neuron to others. So we're using this marker, we can see this was significantly improved by both excitatory pre-synapse marker and excitatory post-synapse marker. Those we can see they are highlighted in these quantification studies that MGE stem cell therapy significantly improved the synapse plasticity. And we can see here, after 1 month, we can see this actually surrounding with this human. Why this is important? So we're using human stem cells injected to rats. So if HMT means the survived the neuron, not recruited endogenous neuron. So it's survived carried by the injected neuron. This was significantly more survived in the MGE treated stem cells. So within that, we also want to see how these cells really survived and was in the brains. We compared using 9.4 Tesla MI, which is, I think, is the highest in the United States here in general practice here. So this study, we can see 30 days after that, this one is a normal one. It's a smaller black dark one. This one is treated with MGE stem cells, which is significantly more than normal stem cell without MGE started. So that we also discussed the others with Wnt signaling pathway, and we just discussed the Wnt signaling was significantly improved with increased in this study. We treated with TPROP. So we further activated one using blue one was Wnt signaling activator, and the red one was Wnt signaling inhibitor. So we can check here is Wnt signaling activated, which is led by the glyco-engineered the stem cell was significantly better, confirmed significantly better than the inhibitor, which is highlighted the Wnt signal pathway in this MG studies. This ischemic stem cell was significantly reduced by the Wnt signaling activator. So for this study, so we trying to see this work using advanced glyco-engineering technique to further treat the stem cell. So this significantly improved the stem cell therapy. The work was highlighted in the last year Advanced Functional Material front cover and in other news. So that's for all this thing. That's the past decade's work. We appreciated significantly the funding support from the 34R1s and the stem cell therapy from the Maryland Stem Cell Foundation, and our significantly contributor for this outstanding fellows. Questions?
Okay. Anyone have question? open up and monopoly the microphone. Beautiful work.
Thank you so much.
It's very important. Also, I really appreciate the innovativeness of using molecular treatment because it is not to talk about.
Thank you.
You did point out the scarcity of stem cell communities. Have you guys started using iPSC derived stem cells for similar kind of treatment?
So I can just answer. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a very good question. So we actually, for this one, we mainly want to develop like a method which can be applied in different laboratory or others. So that stem cell we actually purchased from commercial, but we did try several different things with showing the similar improvement. But we have not specifically compared iPSC derived NSC with commercial NSC, but I suspect the improvement would be very similar.
Yeah, because that scale up is really easy.
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Okay. Due to the time limitation, we will move to our panel discussion. Let's welcome our first panel speakers. On the stage, and bring your chair, please. Bring one chair. Yeah, 我不在哪里开，我灯打开的。
先回答问题，然后我可以离开吗？
可以，我或者是That's all. You can't find out the background, so
往这边坐一点，那边光，这个光没办法。啊，等一下，那个 capture presentation。
So our first panel discussion will talk about the new approach. We know a lot of new technologies in life science and healthcare. So welcome and thank you every panel speakers. I will give you 1 to 2 minutes to introduce yourself, and then we can move to our question. Okay. Just to speak, I think the speaker is too hard to reach.
Yeah, I can start.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Simon Wang. So, Sean. So I'm a professor in Harvard University. So, mainly I focus on the drug discovery, especially in old time we try CAD computer aided drug development, a lot of computer things. But now, so CCAI has taken a bigger role. So we sort of rename the field like AIBD. There's a lot of that. So I'd be happy to introduce her to that.
Hi everyone, my name is Sean, and I'm the CSO from a company called InnoStop, which is a preclinical CRO company from China. So before that, I worked in FDA for about 9 years. I was regulating preclinical part of data companies submitted and we help them to decide whether go or no go to the clinical. Yeah. So I've been very happy to be here to share my knowledge of how AI can be used for drug discovery and thank you.
Hey everyone, and thank you, June, and thank you for the moderator and for inviting us to come to this forum. My name is Feng Liu, and I'm the head biometrics at Immunocore, a small biotech company, and we're mainly doing innovative research in the TCR in oncology. Now, because immunology is so important, we're kind of moving into not just oncology, but also coming into infectious disease and also autoimmune disease, including like dermatitis and also parasitic. So for me, my responsibility mainly on the data, everything about data, and data is so important. And so how we like connecting data from the beginning to the end, in the whole clinical discovery to the commercial space, and then how can get out more of our data insights. That's probably my main responsibility. And coming to that, it's not that straightforward. There's many dots you have to connect, many insights, and also many challenges you have. So I'm happy to share all those things and with this method, with this tool.
Hi, I'm Pepe. Currently, I'm full professor of development of engineering and imaging law. My background is a little bit different from them. I received my bachelor's degree in information science and technology, and my PhD in computation engineering. So from then I moved to the field of medical imaging. So currently, my research actually focused on the medical imaging, particularly on accurate CT, medical imaging analysis, and biomedics. So my current research focus actually kind of AI-based medicine, particularly to improve the image quality of the accurate imaging. So all some analysis. The application actually includes high quality view, the lung cancer image, and as for the compensating image, the things. I'm happy to share my experience. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Jia Wei. I'm the Secretary General in CAST-USA, and I'm the GB Partners co-founder and COO. We are a consulting company, kind of build bridge between East and West. A lot of companies going overseas. And my background pretty marketing, commercialization. So we help them to do the global strategies. Also doing some marketing events and promote their service or products in US. I'm very happy to host this session and talk about I always say the life science and healthcare need to harmonize. Yeah, the research, definitely the purpose is for the patient. So I always want to engage the physician and the research. Yeah, kind of use the dot, connect the dots, right? So we have the technology to use for the physicians. We also have the expertise to develop the drug discovery and drug development. So my first question is, what's your insight to say the AI is transforming the healthcare and life science, and what's your expertise or practical experience in this field now? So everybody, it's a general question, so you can raise up your hands and just speak out.
Sorry, maybe I can start. So I should run late. I have another few minutes to the out. Maybe I can. Also, NVIDIA, so the field I'm in is we use for like say is a computer aided drug design, right? It's aided means like assisted, right? This means you can do that without that or with that, right? With that, it's more helpful. But now when the name has changed, it's AIDD, it's AI-driven drug discovery. It really it becomes essential. It changed the landscape. And also the success of the AIDD, people think that maybe it's just another hype, right? Maybe just like the upcoming years it disappear. But no, it's not the case. AIDD really changed the landscape. So I think drug discovery is very, very expensive, like a gambling things, right? Like more than 10 years, it's $1 billion business, right? So the success rate is very low, 1%, 5%. But now, so at least for the preclinical phase, the AIDD can shorten the time from like 3 to 5 years to 1 to 2 years. That's a lot, it's 70% reduction. And also the cost, like is a $300 million, right? $500 million if you cannot even drop, right? Now it's 100 to 200 million dollars. That's for preclinical phase. So it's really, really just like shorten the time, cost they reduce the cost, right? And so and then now with the generative AI, since you even get even amazing, right? Because previously you have to screen the drug, screen the library, you have meaning compounds, right? You have the draw structure and include the computer. But now with generative AI, so they can generate the drug molecule, and amazing. So it make the things like the close the loop. Computer can generate the molecule, and they can keep optimized, right? So it'll make the loop close. So they can now it's make the AI agent, make the AI scientist more feasible. Now this I think the Harvard and MIT they released like a Turing list. I think it's a couple weeks ago. And also like the Westlake, like in China, Xifu Daxue, they released the deep scientists. They based on the deep sea. So they can they do the things totally independent. They overlook. They pick up the topic or maybe just pick up the various the subject, right? And they can collect the data. AI is very good to collecting data, collecting literature, right? Find out the background things and the targeting the specific area. And also they can do a lot. They can collect data. They can run experiments, right? So I think that the two university, Harvard and MIT, so they can even couple with the external tools, right, and the libraries, or they can couple with the LCMS. They can couple with the reactor, right? With the reactor, they can run the experiment, do the synthesis. So make sense. Make a sense. It's just like even amazing, right? It makes sense like so the AI can totally just work independent. That's the one thing that I want to share. Is like really amazing. Another thing is like now so that now so the there's a big trend. So the people want to move away from animal tests. So now we have the virtual cell. The virtual cell is also so AI can play a major role. So just totally build out the single cell, right? Virtually using the computer. I can do a lot of simulations, either on an atomic pathway or single transduction pathway, right? Virtual cell. Also, they can do some simulation on the organoid. The NIH, yeah, I think there's September 25. This is just launched the national organoid modeling centers, so they can simulate the tissue in the organ, right? So that's things like the AI or like computational biomedicine can really play a bigger role. So pretty much I will share this there.
I've got a couple more things. So I think firstly, I think summarize Dr. Wang summarized very, very well. And one thing is, people were thinking about AI cannot think, and they have to, build out things. Actually, there's a paper on Nature, and one professor from Stanford, James Joe, that what he did is he just run all the top research journal and like AI graded and come out all the hypotheses. Then he sent the hypothesis back to the author. And then they found out that they found a lot of new hypotheses that have been brightened even by having you know the author itself, even their over top scientists, cannot really think more. So this just highlight one area that potentially AI can dive deeper into even some hypotheses, which usually a lot of original thinking that people like human believe that is the strength. Certainly humans still have add, but it's coming closer and closer. And that's one example. And the second example is more on the clinical part. I think we mentioned about how costly it will be in just discovery, but just discovery only a small fraction of clinical development costs. Small fraction, maybe few percent, maybe 1%. So, each like one trial costs $400 million. That's based only one trial. And so people start to think about how can we improve that, utilize all the new technology. Doesn't mean it's all AI. I think the one key thing is they need the data. Data need to tell story on everything. But a lot of time, people like even big company, they make a decision on limited data. Then the first thing is how to connect all the data together. Including external data, including all your internal data. That's not easy because each piece of data they came from different source, hard to harmonize. I think that's one of the things that a lot of companies have been doing, try to build infrastructure. And like because one fancy word called data lake, and people do, this is not new word, but AI helped a lot in the recent years, help a lot to formalize that more into reality. Once you have data lake, you can do many things. And, because you have more, you connect all your research data into clinical, into commercial, medical fair, even all the trial information, all come to the same source. So you can incorporate more of, you dive into more of your data. So that help your study design, that help you to prop your patient faster, and eventually help move your trial, accelerate your trial, eventually you can improve your trial success, because trial success always a big hurdle for drug company to invest. Even there's so many clinical trials, but still the success rate has been very, very low. Like phase one trial in clinical, only 10% coming into approval. So there are lots of many different small things that AI can do, like touch a point, but they have not been like they're still piece by piece. But I think all the revolution came from a smaller changes. Like accumulate. You have to improve yourself day by day. Even smaller steps after some ages eventually become big. And so I think this is something happening, and that potentially can be more.
And so maybe in decades we can achieve the goal at the lower cost and accelerate the whole
Actually, I
process.
don't think that. I think I would make human being more busier and try to think other big issues.
Yeah, I would
You can choose.
yeah, I would get echo their opinions. Actually, it reminds me of my early days when I do my postdoc in Hopkins and doing drug screening. Spend years to get crystal structures of a protein and do the high speed screening, get a compound, and how to ask the chemist to do the more modifications to eventually spend another maybe 2 years or 3 years to get a real compound moving to the animal studies. Nowadays, I think this becomes much easier with AlphaGo, right? And those we can predict pretty much the structures of the proteins with high accuracy and do more rational drug design. And with the AI, the software that helps, you can generate a lot of compounds and find out which one you want to move forward. And now these days, I think there are a couple of examples, companies start from scratch and only spend a year or two and moving a compound clinical. Yeah, a lot of examples like that. So I see great power in terms of all this. From the very beginning, you have grand ideas to the clinic. Yeah, speed up everything. And then in terms of cost, that's another thing. From early screening, you make spend less to get a real compound. And then for clinical part, I think the clinical trial, how to do a better clinical design in using less patient and to recruit enough patient to get enough statistical significance, and how to find the right endpoints and to make that a really useful clinical trial. And these are very critical. And another one I missed is that how AI can help us to find out new mechanisms that the scientists cannot even never realize. Actually, I see great power in this field. I see, yeah, that's
Okay, and Professor, you are in a different sector.
Yeah, I see something different. So in my field, actually, is the medicine. So I see a lot of opportunity to improve the clinical diagnosis accuracy. So one example is that of the you saw already the Qingdao in the one very good example. So here I can use this other example. So currently, low dose CT is the standard choose for the lung cancer screening. So however, currently is used to the lung cancer screening. The currently give about 105 percentile of the screens that we give point. However, 90 but 96 point, 96, but most of them are just kind of not kind of request, it's just a short point. So if there's a audit, so usually the patient will be recommended for the hours. So the patient will have kind of not only anxiety but also cost. So if we are definitely we can use the state of art in order to lower the rate of the fault point. So that means we save a lot of cost and save the patient and make them happy. So yeah, that would be one example.
That's good. Okay.
Question? Yeah, I have a question actually. So, yeah, I think because it's very to the Dr. Chen and Dr. Liu. I know both of you are working in the pharma or CRO. But both of you mentioned that AI or other labs can accelerate the drug screen or the mechanism studies. But my question is, do you know what kind of new project methodology had been used or could be used for regulatory submission? Could you provide some general example or your insights? Thank you.
I was thinking the same
Right,
question.
right.
I can start. So I work in FDA and specifically into all these NAM issues. Yeah.
Mm.
So I think we're still at early stages. I mean, there are some assays people recognize and consider that useful can replace animal studies. For example, skin irritation studies, erosion studies. So determine whether the drug is really irritant or cause any skin damage or to eye, for example.
Okay.
But and also for liver toxicities, for example, there are some organoid models people use, and also liver on chips, for example.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
there's
these
one.
things
Yeah.
people use that for early drug screening, and also for later on. If for particular mutations, you may want to use the human hepatocytes. Yeah,
The
if
immune
to be more
system.
yeah to be more relevant. And I think these, and also kidney and heart, I think these are three areas actually people use a lot to predict kidney toxicities or heart related toxicities. And but for others, it's still very hard, because it's very complicated and yeah, different genetic background. And also for the assays, how do we determine that assay has been standardized and to be representative of the real situation? There's a lot of things we need to work on. And on top of that, and because our human body, there's a lot of organs involved, right? There's the crosstalk. So how do you think that put the all organ chips together to make a body on chips? And how do they crosstalk? It's very complicated. I think we are no way near that, close to that. But I think people are working on that, and especially for large farmers, and I think they have the capabilities because they have a lot of data in house, and also they have a lot of animal data and human data. which small company doesn't have. So actually, they have a way to do the deep analysis and to see whether the chip assay is is a validate assay. Yeah, and also I think this should be driven by large pharma as well as FDA, for example. They have tons of data too. So this should be the driven force in the field. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I can add a couple of quick examples. I heard some buzzword. One is submission, another is accelerating trials. I think that's two buzzword and very important. I think, firstly, clinical development is probably the most conservative and regulated area. And every data need to be recorded. Everything need to be have trace. That's been so important because they all have to follow GCP. And so sometimes it can be make things complicated. I can give you quite a few. There are a lot of examples. I can give you a couple. One is submission. So because we're preparing a submission right now, and one tool using is you have already have all the submission documents, and also you have a lot of tables. You can ask AI to automatically populate, putting just like certainly they need to learn your system. You have 1,000 tables and graphs, and you have submission documents. They can a lot of time in the past it's very labor, micro-writer, and also like each member, like a member with 20, 30 people. That's already that's key people. Like you put in VP, senior VP, they need to do something manual. But those can be done there, so they can done more of AI way. And they're making mistakes, but something like they won't complete 9% of work for you. And another example, similar example is they can help you write some kind of protocol and stuff. Protocol can be challenging because that's a lot of innovative thinking there. How to handle the drug safety, how to handle your schedule, how to handle each piece of information. This is challenging. But once you have protocol, your informed consent, there's a ton, probably 20, 30, maybe 100 different clinical documents for each country submission. IRB, those can be much easier to generate based on your protocol. And so those are that's the first example. And again, make mistakes. They can put something wrong, but that's your responsibility to able to review that, handle that. But they can save your work. And
Assist you.
So we have labor work.
as AI migrate into the newer version, because you can see OpenAI like every few months, it always give you something surprising or new. So there will be always better, better, better. And so that give people more of incentive to think about, do I need to adapt to this technology? A second, more of on the safety, and also talking about accelerate trial. There can be many examples how I can use data to handling data, like using AI to handling data, like programming, and also using we call it the machine learning and AI. This is pretty broad word, but actually it's a statistical modeling, and like a lot of topics can be discussed in the morning to able to predict the chance the patient going to see toxicity, even efficacy. I know that's a tricky part. This is a lot uncertainty there, and but we are in a world with a lot of uncertainty, and I think I don't think the AI if AI in the future they cannot resolve all the uncertainty, but they help you even mitigate like small percentage of that. That's very helpful. So that or if you adopt some of that, you can see, when I share some kind of analytics with clinicians and also with the clinical team, they do see they see a better way of handling data with PIs, with sites, and they can enroll the patient faster, and they can find right population faster. So that escalate the trial and from the compared to traditional way. So I think still they're not really coming to the revolutionary yet, but changing happen like just like drop of waters, like piece by piece. So I think it's mainly the mindset, how you want to adapt to that, and eventually if there's something that we can really use, able to move this forward in a more faster way? I think those type of questions need a longer term to think about how we can do things differently.
Okay, thanks.
And Dr. proposed another question. I think it's a very good question. We have been talking about along the way, which is the human expertise in the AI era. Yeah, and which is the irreplaceable human part. Yeah, in this new era, and I would love to hear your insight. And we talked about the AI will be smarter than us, right?
In some
And
way, that's my.
so I would love to hear your insights and about this topic.
I'm sorry. I just started. I'll leave that out. So yeah, I think yeah, since I say this, is overlooked, right? AI can be AI agent or AI scientist that can work like day and night or 24 hours, 7 days. But actually, I think that they're demanding like very good scientists. They believe in intuition, right? This is the intuition, scientific intuition. So sometimes they even for business, right? So that's how the Steve Jobs, right, designed the Apple phone, right? So the sometimes this kind of intuition is not replaceable, right? So Albert Einstein is very famous for. So he said the scientific the intuition in scientists, right? So the is much more important than the rationality, much more important than the analytic skills. So that's what he said. And also, many of the very like the very good scientists, right? They play music, right? So they use like the piano player, is a very good piano player. So they rely on this kind of things. Sometimes it's not quite replaceable.
Okay. Okay.
In my opinion, so example, the working what being replaced by the AI suddenly the second work, but for many professional work. That's because now then when so in I mean, so even AI is very powerful, they cannot replace the communication. So the role of clinicians to be the master and the supplier. So when we have power, the AI to continue so they can especially can tool can assess kind of system. But again, for the routine things, AI do good job. But for some case, we still need a process of the communication. They need the final state. But also the conversations we check the that was a result of the particularly for some case. So needed that needed to implement this kind of control. They say the quality good, so they could not replace the position.
That's good. Okay.
I can have a similar. I agree. They are great insights. So uh, I was thinking about like if I'm meeting with a physician, that AI physician will tell me, okay, I have brain cancer. Here is a treatment. They're recommended. That's it. But at the time, I I have fears. I have a lot of feeling, human feelings, and that cannot be addressed. I have a lot of questions. Sometimes cannot be addressed by AI because the question may not relate to treatment, relate to my personal, my my history, even my childhood memory, how my family react to this type of disease. They cannot be handled by AI. But a human doctor who have empathy. They can probably heard, when you try to manage disease, it's not just like a treatment. It's your mental prepared and you need to, help the body to maintain a good state. Then with a help treatment, you can beat the disease. So I think those are very important. All those mentally prepared and also physiology, kind of preparedness will help a lot during the course of like just like experimental design, that means including clinical design or including lab, any type of design. And like there are so many different things you have to consider in there, and it has to be a kind of more adaptive. So how it can bring more adaptive component there, and so those things are sense and intuition is something that human have that that I think it's hard for AI to sense that. And this is a piece that I think we, as a human, that's and firstly that's part of our body, but also that we need to benefit from.
Yeah, I just have one example that my FDA colleagues talk to me and say, well, FDA using AI for their review work, will they lose job? Yeah. So it turns out they won't, and it turns out that not. What's to say that human making decisions is much more complicated. Yeah. So AI is good at summarize what we already have and make some predictions, but so far I don't think they are making smarter predictions than human. And also from FDA reviewers' point, when they make a decision, there are multi-factors, not just based on one data set. Yeah, there's a lot of other things there, considerations making, for example, some CGT products for a rare disease. Sometimes when the data is not perfect, but FDA still allow them to be used for companion use, right? And also, if there's other choices, what should we do? Based on the data we already have, we have to make benefit risk decisions. If there's more benefit for the patient, we will allow them to go. So for that, I think AI tool cannot make that decision.
That's very good. I have open one question.
Oh, yeah, I have a question to Dr. Liu. Thank you for giving us a lot of example. And I think we all talk about the taking advantage of the AI, and I have some like probably native stuff here. So I want to talk about the potential error, missing or validation about AI outcomes, data validation, outcome validation, or like algorithm validation. I'm submitting do a lot of like documentation submitting to NIH for different fundings. And as I said, as you said, I use AI, and sometimes actually like initially, I got like a lot of like stuff which is like not what I want, and those results always need to be validated, and there's actually a lot of labor cost, and we need more like people to involve to check those. So my question is like, how do you think to validate the outcome and the data? And do we need to use like check the AI self training, or is there any other new technology about
That's a very good question, and I probably can dive a bit more. And since you asked about that, so I think I would say there's a current state of AI and future state of AI. I think your question more on the current state.
it?
So I'm mainly handling the data, and when we facing the data, I would classify them in more three classes. And one class is called more like formal data that really need to go to FDA, and I need 100% QC on top of that. This is still being handled by routine way, and just they are because that's easier to do. We already have system to do that, and I don't want to touch on the system because I want to make sure system handles that's a critical work that need to go to submission. But there are also other way on the left hand side, there's an area called exploratory. That's really come to us like a lot of time coming to like how I want to validate certain biomarker with a lot of transmat data and connection with clinical data. I want to, PI have some question I want to dive into. I want to understand how safety would impact not just one study but multiple studies and things like that. And the middle part is something in the middle. It's more of internal, but need to go to governance. I'm not sure you've heard that. Governance means that like decision making. This so three area have three different strategy kind of that. And I think AI can fit into the lab two area and especially the left area. And when I was using AI to do level of programming, and like you know CDX, all the wording, and CDX is kind of like regulatory compliance data set that need to go to FDA. And so when you have such thing, and firstly, as a statistician, the first rule is to have some exploratory firstly, have some sense whether the results are good or not. Once you try AI kind of approach, I mean, utilization very important. There's no other AI to do that. But that brings another question whether we can import another AI agent to check your data. I don't have not see the better use of that. So tuition. If you feel something wrong, I think that's something you need to check. And then you can just call on another person. Just you don't have to check everything. It's more like another review. And if you both feel comfortable, I think you'll be happy to able to explain that with clinician. I think by using a lot of different type of strategy, and that will help you to gradually build the confidence on each of the methods you're gonna apply to your daily work. Eventually, you can see how AI can help us improve as what I'm doing currently. Not everyone have successful story. Each person use differently, but majority of my team, I can see the benefit of that.
Then thank you so much. Since the time limit, we will stop here. And can we take a group picture?
Yes.
Thank you. And then I will.
Another one on it left.
First, yeah, you want to.
I think we'll be good.
Come on, join.
Yeah, we're gonna pitch. Yeah.
Perfect. 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 Okay, then let's move to our next panel discussion and welcome all our speakers and our moderators.
Which is another one of
Yeah,
Yes.
that's just we're talking about US and China.
right here for this.
Channel John is the first. Drop airdrop. Okay. 请你学的都是人的资产收取的。不好意思啊。
我所以很中意，我们在班里面就是这个天堂，我是很讨厌的。你看我天天他是管理我，我是很谢谢你们当时的。经理。
包括我的同事，美国一定要。
没有观众了，没有给，sorry。
他们有像。
Just one second.
One second.
Have a break. Just relax.
Sorry.
随意，跟随意。
It's a fireside chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. 你先配合什么？我不穿，不是，你先给他们帅哥们美。F4。嗯。
Okay. So we're going to start now. Okay. All right. So I think this panel is the U.S.-China pharma, I guess, practice and also global extension. So first of all, I want to introduce or kind of make a brief introduction. I would like to tell panelists to talk more about more about themselves. I think that the first panelist is Guangzhou Wang, who now is I think it's the senior director at FME. We are in that movement. Maybe you want to make some about yourself.
Okay, yeah. So my experience is pretty diverse. I after graduate school, I worked in academic research for many years at Johns Hopkins. Then at Osaka Pharmaceutical, working in the discovery lab for many years as well. Then later on transitioning to clinical trials management, data project management. Yeah, so.
All right. So Gary Martin, the working for since
Yes.
yeah, really working.
And join this presentation. My name is Gary, and I'm graduated with a medical degree from Penn University, and then I entered the pharmaceutical industry, worked in up to companies in China like pharmaceutical, and then go to CROs like USIA and Parcel, etc. And then after a period of industry work, I so started a company with my friend in 2013. The company named Timing Technology. We basically provide the digital solution for clinical trials, and we do a lot of AI technology, like Dr. Liu mentioned, during the last session. We provide AI, and it's running like a 5 to 6 thousand clinical trials in the data management area, and having technology, they supervising like the cost distribution and counseling group based in DC. We are an international firm. Our headquarters in California, but we have 19 offices around the globe. We are probably at least one of the largest. For example, I think so far this year, my data is a little dated. At least till August, there are 10, 18A IPOs in Hong Kong from China Biotech, and we represent about. So we have a 50% market share in that particular practice, and we are, for that reason, we're very, very intertwined with the U.S., China, cross-border transaction. Happy to share some of my insights here.
All right. Thank you. So I see some friends here. So for those who don't know me, just a couple of sentences about myself. So I'm currently general counsel at a biotech company in Boston called Hangzhou Therapeutics. It's under the cancer drug clinical stage company. It's a kind of journey. So by training, I'm a scientist, theater, also now. But anyway, so let's have a first chat, right? So I think from my perspective, I think that three of you have a different perspective, but because my company is about that, right? It's located in the U.S., but it also has certain kind of connection, and it's in the stage that it needs to either license out its technology or do actively is being acquired, right? And also we are involved in the clinical trials and so forth. So my first question is really to Dr. Wong is that for a company, for a biotech company, I know being yourself working at the biotech company being acquired by a agency, and now you're working with. So what the big companies are looking for when they either acquire or looking at licensing in the technology from a biotech.
Yeah, so the merger acquisition and the in-licensing, out-licensing, that's a norm in the pharmaceutical industry because the expertise, all expertise for the clinical development in all the way to the market. So yeah, so maybe a small very different model. Um, and I after Osaka, pharmaceutical company to acquire companies really pharmaceutical company to acquire companies really they are looking at their partner, right? Focus on their area of expertise. So in order to grow their pipeline portfolio, they need to some more efficient ways to go out evaluating other companies. So looking at the other companies that in terms of expand their existing therapeutic area profile, or they bring in the new, they get into a new therapeutic area. Um, they they also acquire from the technology perspective, such as AI, company for drug discovery, or cell therapy, gene therapy, these newer technology, all the this newer technology, all the new technology, how to get right into the brain, pass through the blood-brain barrier, for example. So all these can be considered in the acquisition. Certainly, a high company to get into the new market, a new patient population, or that's also another consideration. Now, another model is in-licensing, right? So, acquisition for this the in-licensing now they have different consideration as well. In-licensing, you have lower upfront investment. You only pay some upfront payment, then the investors buy milestone or buy royalty after sale. So in a lower risk, then the other consideration is that you have to share your profit if the drug turned out to be successful. So which many bigger pharma may not want to, they want to just get in house and continue their development. So yeah, so many different considerations.
Yeah, I think I do because I'm also in the life sciences space, so I see lots of these transactions, and but the buzzword we always hear is first in class, best in class, and so on and so forth. But oftentimes you also see once you identify, like one of the pharmaceutical companies identify very hot, very promising area, then everybody wants a piece of that, right? So the best case example is PD-1 EGF bispecific antibody. So the story starts 2022, CAST-BOS licensed their clinical stage as a bispecific antibody to Summit Therapeutics, which is a mid-cap U.S. pharmaceutical biotech company. At the time, it was a record-setting acquisition, no, a licensing deal with $500 million upfront. But then 2 years later, you have Merck, I think at Lenovo deal with a very similar asset in the exact same modality. And then this year, two blockbuster deals, BMS with BioNTech, and another one is very recently the Pfizer 3S file, right? So you see the number is going, uh, moving up very, very fast. So although arguably the rest of them are not first in class, but they all have a shot at the best in class. So we still who's gonna win this particular race is yet to be seen. But you will see this is very very common. Once one company make a groundbreaking scientific discovery, then the rest of them will all kind of strategically acquire similar asset in the same space.
Yeah, I think that from the biotech perspective, we wish we can crystal ball to see what asset could be acquired by bigger companies. But mostly what I see is they have their own innovation, and it's a more or less plays a lot. If you're betting on the right thing, then but that's a kind of the years that it's hard to make a prediction of what's going to be a few years later. Recently, I heard that there's Chinese companies. I think they're trying to get into that. There are service companies who do analysis of portfolio of the bigger companies and providing that data so that the Chinese company can better predict what to bet, make another bet, right? It's remains to be seen how successful it will be.
So I personally is not a professional of a of the BD trade, but I work with a lot of pharmaceutical companies who have to deal with the MNCs like Sichuan Beijing, which with the system here in US, and also the like CAST-BOS who partner with Atomic Therapeutics, and also like a Qingdao partner with Pfizer. So I work with the closely with those companies. The observation is that firstly, so in China there are a lot like the competition is very significant, and maybe there's a 10 even 100 of the similar product for the same mechanism. So so they, but the winner basically have several characteristics. So firstly, that they have very aggressive progress, i.e. clinical trial stage. Second, they have a very good, clinical outcome. Thirdly, that they really know how to differentiate their product from others. And the fourth is that they really have a very good BD capability in the area. Like a Hungary pharmaceutical, they have strong BD capability, and they connect with a lot of MNCs, and they really have a very strong pipeline there, and they have very good progress compared with the other competitor. Yeah, so that's the observation, my observation.
Yeah, for talking about the Chinese biotech company now are licensing all the new model chemical overseas. I guess that's like when I'm working for Otsuka, that's almost 30 years now, or 25. When the Japanese company, when they first get into the US, it's also a lot of learning experience, to culture difference, how to operate the companies in that. So I think that this at this stage for the Chinese biotech is more of a dealing with learning experience by partner or our licensing or the form the new com, gain the experience how to develop a drug globally. Because the even though the transaction now talking about $1 billion, but the most of them probably is a milestone in the royalty pay, the upfront pay still a small percentage. So the return is not that big, so but eventually the biotech from China want to able to run a company, gain experience, run a company in that global US.
So I also wanted to talk about clinical trials because based on our company's experience, right? So we started to do a US trial, and that turns to be really slow and then it's costly. Then we turned into Europe. We thought about China, but at the time there are certain concerns, so we choose European sites. It's turned out better than the US sites, and faster enrollment and so forth. But I think that nowadays it's very critical to have a fast, even you start as a preclinical, right? The speed of the clinical trials is almost a rapid best, right? So it's now seems the time has turned back to choosing science in China to do the clinical, right? Even my company is considering that for the next throughout the pipeline. So since Gary, you've been working this field a lot for a long time. Can you comment on, what are the advantages and maybe problems for doing the clinical trials?
Yeah, so actually, I started my career in pharmaceutical and in 2009. So it already has been like almost 20 years, in the industry. So actually, China experienced a significant change during the past 10 years. So it's not a change in some aspect. Actually, it's a very systematic change and improvement. Firstly, for the regulatory authority, so China government and regulatory authority is start a 30-day fast track R&D approval. Slashing the previous 6-day R&D approval. So it's a China government is more and more aggressive. And they really want to, support the industry, especially the clinical trial of innovative drug. And also, they started to promote the digital solution to the eventual side. So I just I met a professional of a U.S. company at a conference, uh, you know, 2 weeks two weeks ago in Baltimore, and she asked me a question does China hospital use EHR? So this is the question. So actually, uh, at, from my experience, actually, almost 100% of China from hospitals are using EHR, names, PAC, etc. And then and for physical unit, almost all the physical unit are using digital solutions and automation of physical units. So almost everything is digitalized in China. So and the second is that you know so 10 years ago, China lack of professionals, lack of human resources. There are no, not very many. I think 10 years ago, even there's no many data managers. And from pharmacovigilance specialists, there's no such, even I think 80% of pharmaceutical company has no data manager than from pharmacovigilance professionals. So it's just really, it was really, unbelievable at that time. And you really look at today. So, but right now, there are not only many professional, but also the really get deeply involved in the global trials together with their partners, just like Dr. Wang said. So actually, just like Bio, their CEO now is one of the board member of uh, Summit Therapeutics. Summit Therapeutics. She's learning how to run a biotech in a Western way. Yeah. So and the third is that the digitalization is really developing in China, and actually we also apply a lot of AI technology already. Like we are the number one digitalization provider in China. We're number one. We beat Metadata Viva, etc. in China, and we really provide the AI solution that any other competitor don't provide, like the generated CRF, the using protocols. You know, uh, the users just upload everything to the system and all the document, and the AI will process automatically. So such thing. And so I think that the fourth and the most important thing is that China really had the huge number of issues, and all the China biotechs and pharmaceutical companies are really aggressive on the patient recruitment. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. And And during the past 10 years, the total number of investigational sites in China, grew uh, by 20% to 1,000 and 1,500, major clinical sites. So I think that there's a lot of changes. So I think you really think, that the company in the US really, at least to take a look at China when they, make their strategy.
I also thought that it's simply to do the clinical trial, it's better to do phase one and then for two, three, and do it building. That's the right way to say it, or is it?
I think, yeah, personally, I think, uh, if I think no matter you want to enter the China, market, or you still, focused on the U.S. market. Personally, China is a good place to do a proof of concept. You can quickly do this one, this two. Of course, you can do the U.S. clinical trials in parallel. You don't need to, fully rely on the, clinical trial in China. And I think that currently, many U.S. biotechs also uh, uh, are considering to do clinical trials in China in parallel. So, because U.S. biotechs, they are really now competing with the biotech in China because they also want to, acquire acquired by MNCs. But the capital of MNC is shifting to China. So that's the case thing. The ecosystem in the US now is changing. Yeah. So I think if for the late phase, if you really want to enter the China market, of course we need to do late phase clinical trials in China. But otherwise, I think you can either partner uh, with China biotech to do early phase, or you can do or partner with like some CROs to do some this one with two early phase studies.
So Sean, I think you probably know this the best among us, the four of us, is that it's apparent that currently the geopolitical tension and so the regulatory changes is I can't say it's changing every day, but it's a significant trend for biotech companies because. So can you comment on what can be done to if we are doing collaboration with between the US and China companies, Chinese companies?
Yeah, that's always a favorite topic of ours whenever I talk to my clients. Because the business momentum is there. You definitely see both industries in China and the US really wants to work with each other. Right, that's where the innovation finds the capital market. That's a perfect marriage. But there's one thing that can throw the whole thing off the drain is the geopolitical tension countries. Uh, I think historically used to be the CBS investigation and so on. The CBS for not familiar with it. It's the committee for foreign investment in the U.S. Sorry, yeah. So that's a government entity in the U.S. Basically investigate all these type of foreign investment in U.S. companies, and that's traditionally restricted into sensitive technology critical to the U.S. national security or like other type of investment in terms of geographic locations, sensitive like military base and so on and so forth. But over the years, starting from the Obama administration and really last couple of years in the Trump administration, that has the scope of CBS restriction has been expanded drastically. And there are talks on the deal that is going to expand and is still kind of working through the legislation process. There's one called the Biosecure Act. I'm sure everybody has heard of that. That was defeated in Senate last year in 2024, but it's coming back again. It's in the latest draft. It just passed the Senate, and it's going back to Congress, the House, to just for this further discussion. So if that passes, then you're gonna have a lot of restrictions on U.S. companies using Chinese manufacturing, CROs, DMOs, and so on and so forth. Although the details hasn't been worked out, looks like this one is not necessarily as restrictive as the version we saw last year. At least Wuxi is not like named in the statute, but there is a mechanism, there a list that can be additional entities can be added to the list. So we just don't know. And then another one is, of course, I was in September. I remember it vividly because I just spent 5 weeks in Asia, in Shanghai, Hong Kong, Beijing, Singapore, and I was finishing my trip on the flight from Singapore back to the U.S. And all of a sudden, I was getting lots of text messages from my clients. I was like, "What's going on?" Then you open the phone, of course, the New York Times newspaper came up with this story that Trump is contemplating on this draft executive order that basically sets up all kinds of restrictions on trying to restrict this type of BD transaction we were just talking about. So that if that gets implemented, that also will significantly slow down the momentum that we are talking about here today. So these are the things that really keep us up. But the $1 million question is, what would we do? I think it'll be disappointing from my perspective. I'm still pretty optimistic. I think again, there are two things that are not going to be changed. One, China biotech as an industry will still pumping out these innovations. That will not stop. In these companies, there are just too many smart entrepreneurs and very successful, great work ethic, and all the government support and so on and so forth. I think that you will still continue to see all these innovation coming out of these early stage of these companies. And two, unlike a cell phone chip or AI chips that the government can easily stop importing or exporting to others. It's hard. It's a much harder political argument to make if an innovation, a life-saving drug coming out of a Chinese lab, you're really gonna tell the U.S. patient, no, sorry, you're not gonna be able to have the access to it. It's a very hard argument, even for the U.S. government to make. So I think eventually there will be some ways still for the two parties to work together. It's just from the industry point of view, it's not necessarily a national security like everything else. This is life science, in my opinion, is kind of a different ballpark. For Chinese companies, in the last few years, again, it's really latched on to the momentum. We see a lot this year, in particular, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange has been very hot. They are on pace to raise more capital this year in 2025 than NASDAQ and New York Exchange combined. This is a ridiculous number, right? So that just shows you how this the market is, and a big part of that, the IPO market is from the Chinese biotech companies, and they have been very successful in terms of their performance. Which one called strategic curiosity over skepticism. So it's a great way of categorizing the momentum shift biotech and pharmaceutical companies' perspective. They used to be more kind of on the skeptical side. The data is coming from a Chinese company. The clinical trial was run in China. Like, can we really trust it, right? Over I would say 10 years ago. Now it's completely different. And can you really afford not to have a Chinese strategy? And these companies are going to be your biggest competitor, or if you are US biotech company, or your biggest innovation source, essentially, like for a big pharma. So you really need to have a strategy to capitalize on this. Even for the smaller biotech companies, we see many of my US side clients are asking me nowadays, like, how do we get into this? And I think to Gary's point, a lot of these companies can look at the regulatory regime in China and say, hey, can we partner with these companies and just do a quick proof of concept phase 1 and get the de-risking data so that we can work with a big pharma on the US side. We can kind of split out the benefit, of course, in certain ways, financial terms, but I think it's also a win-win for both sides. And so on that note, I think they will eventually, the industry is very resilient. We've been through this up and down, and right now we are on a high note. And just hopefully, one, the geopolitical tension doesn't really derail the whole thing, and two, I'm just very curious to see what this brings us next.
Yeah, I feel the same way, really, from the company side. I will be happy to see how it transpires. Really. Anyway, so I think thank you for the very very good insight. For the audiences, any questions you have?
I think we talk about a lot of innovations of China, and they start from more niche drug, and now they see some innovations. Can you elaborate more on what do you think about the fundamental or like a foundational or story behind the innovation?
Yeah, so I have several observations. The first thing is that the drug discovery is really strong in China, like the USIA tech and Pharma, etc. So actually, they have touched upon this is a foundation also. So firstly, China, there are really a lot of potential products, innovative products. And that's the first. And the second, I think there's a kind of a also the China from biotechs or China entrepreneurs are actually become more and more practical and more diverse diversified because some of them they know okay we need to do to be a fast follower or sometimes we need to do really do first in class. So they different from the 10 years ago. I think that 80% of China or even more China pharmaceuticals actually do need two actually, and they don't do they even need better in China at that time. We call it first in class. Actually, it's not. So I think that firstly the first in class there are some potential first in class innovative drug like a system immune, the product of system immune and artificial bio. The outcome of trials really impact their partners, like some therapeutics, stock of the some goes up, went up really, maybe 2 or 3 times after the disclosure of Akisabio's clinical trial. So, and second is that the strategy of clinical development in China is diversified. They 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 start to analyze the whole healthcare data and to identify and find the unmet need of healthcare. So, but previously they just look at all the MNCs to follow the MNCs. So that's a very different. So so I think that this the the whole capability of China biomedics biotechs are really growing very fast, and they are still learning and growing. So that's a thing. So I think I totally agree with Sean. So I think in the future, China will become more and more important in the whole pharmaceutical industry in the world.
And I love Gary keep bringing Akeso Bio as in this example. Akeso Bio is one of my biggest clients.
Great.
Yeah, so I handle all their patent work, and it's a huge client for me. And their I think their development is kind of the best representative Chinese bio that is very, very successful nowadays, right? When I started my career 10, 12 years ago, the licensing flow is the opposite direction. So China Bio. So
Right,
at the
yeah.
time, our biggest clients are
Totally reversed.
yeah, IMAP, Scilab of the world, right? So they in license all these assets from those big pharmaceutical companies in the West, and they just to keep their China right and kind of try to commercialize this way. And so during my career, I kind of see the shift of the momentum from the other direction. Castle-Bio is a perfect example. So their co-founders are all Western educated, so they are from the very beginning. They want to do it the right way, scientifically driven, right? So even till this day, and they fundamentally they didn't invent PD-1 or identify, discover PD-1. Somebody else did in the West, of course, right? But they act very, very fast, and they were one of the first labs that started using the PD-1 VEGF combo. Yeah. Once they saw the clinical evidence that it's helpful, so they put all their resources into that particular product, and it just took off so fast. And again, 2022, it was a $500 million record setting in the market. But now, of course, you look at Summit, it's a $60 billion company, right? So but now become this PD-1 VEGF, of course, it's very important to Akeso, but Akeso has so many different pipelines. I think a few months ago when I counted it, they have 30-something clinical trials ongoing, which is incredible. So once they learn these different things, some of them are from Queso, some of them are when they are talking to all these different pharmaceutical companies, they learn the bits and pieces, and also scientifically, they're still, again, very, very driven in identifying the next hot thing. So they're going after different modalities in all these. They have ADC programs, sRNA programs. They are going after scientifically a lot of those very, very interesting therapeutic areas. So I think that's always a very encouraging sign to see you have this homegrown Chinese biotech company that is on track to become the next, I don't know, Beijing of the world, right? Beijing is also a great example. Started off as this one trick pony with this one particular product, but now it's a global company. It's not even Beijing anymore. It's B1, right? So they did the name change, and they re-domiciled in Switzerland. They are listed in
So it's
NASDAQ.
not Chinese company anymore.
Yeah,
It's not.
but I would say it's a global company with significant Chinese presence, right? So they are a very, very good success story. And also Henry is another big client of ours. We did in the last 12 to 18 months, we did 3 deals for them with Merck, right? I personally did the GSK deal that announced 6 months, not even 6 months, 3, 4 months ago. Yeah, it was very intense negotiation. Anyone wants to hear the story about that negotiation? Happy to share offline. But they keep us really, really busy, and the GSKs of the world, the Merck of the world, really treat these big players from China as their peer firms, right? So they all have their specialties, of course. They see Henry as this R&D powerhouse. So they are putting, I mean, for GSK, it's a $12 billion deal. So they are basically saying, you go ahead, do those 12, like a very diverse early stage programs for us. Many of them, there's no asset yet. There's no IP, no asset. They're just saying, hey, we want to work with you essentially in these promising clinical areas.
Maybe I can push. I'm sorry, a little bit more. So one of my US colleagues asked me. I mean, told me, China's doing 996. How can I feed that? So my touch on question is, how this like working hard talent from US. Certainly, there's different reasons. How this reason play a role from your perspective into the success. And second thing is opportunities. How do you see there will be? If you want to certainly now looking for future in 5 years, what are the opportunities you like to point out? You like to see that between U.S. and China, and I certainly one is the slope is different, right? The slope in China is increasing quite faster than US, and we can do the modeling and prediction, but what are the opportunities and gaps potentially that can be like this group and try to understand better, potentially can we get into that? That's a bigger question, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that. So, yeah. Actually, I think it's a the circumstance of the different circumstances because in China people actually really don't want to work.
Now,
China actually, it's not our hobby. We don't really they don't like this. The reason is that that's what that is driven by the desire to survive. You know, if you slow, you will die. So we have no choices. It's different from in US. The competition here is a very much less than in China. And people won't do the same thing with others. They want to differentiate themselves. But in China, it's different. People, if you success, then I will follow you. So that's a different thing. So just like several years ago, I think 5 to 7 years ago, 100 of a company is developing products of a PD-1, right? So it's ridiculous. It's a totally a waste of money. But that's the situation in China. I think that's one thing. So I think that in the future, the opportunity is still is collaboration between cross border between China and US because here you can you know why GSK want to collaborate with the Hungary pharmaceutical. Actually, I think the role of Hungary for GSK is kind of like a WuXi kind of like a CRO, but Hungary is had much more a much stronger capability yeah in terms of the clinical development than no matter WuXi or IQVIA.
I know why. That's a problem. That's why they have such stronger research capability. GSK also large, very large. Big pharma have almost 100K people. They have like majority of probably in the R&D, and they're also working hard. I mean, what are the fundamental differences?
I think that actually, I think China pharmaceutical company is another type of CRO, but they have very different ownership from typical CROs. They have two roles, in one is that they are also pharmaceutical company. They have ownership. They are stakeholder of these products. This is a very key thing. Because all the CROs don't care about your products. They just do regular operation, for your clinical trials. That's totally different. And the second, Hungary Pharmaceutical actually has a very, very strong technical platform, even stronger than WuXi, I would say, much stronger than WuXi. So they have a very good, drug discovery platform, clinical, capability. They have like thousands of, clinical trial personnel in China, only in China. WuXi only have a limited capability in clinical development.
Right. I would say the bigger pharma they really outsourcing their research, the discovery because they internally is very not efficient, very inefficient as a large pharma. There's a lot of bureaucratic, the process, and just like say, the pressure is different in US, especially this bigger company. Work-life balance. You are not overworking, right? Yeah. In China, the pressure, the working harder in the deliver the results.
Those play a role.
I have one comment, because just early December, I went to Shenzhen, Hong Kong. I'm really seeing the policy and government government both because like the Hong Kong Bell, the government supported a lot to help them build the bridge between China and the US and other countries. So the government really play a big role. And the government, somebody told me that the government would love to take more shareholders in the pharmaceutical industry, the life science industry. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the current environment in the US and in the China, the situations in the this prosperity is temporary. Will be over in a few years when China, develop and gain all the experience. US will be view China as a equal partner in the world collaborate rather than as well. So, and especially in biology, as you know, all the talent are the Chinese. China, all the Chinese, you are American. That's doing the work. Do
People in this room.
Oh, I really have one question. I want to ask Sean about you talked about B1, right? I worked for Pfizer as the marketing salesperson for many years. I really at that time, yeah, we really want to, the company in China they can go global and do the commercial part, But now just we say B1, but B1 is different, yeah, the DNA is different. So you talked to the big pharma people in China. Do you see their ambition to do we call that last 1 mile, right? To hit that door, and we can do that end to end.
I think this is completely my personal opinion. I think many of these companies, including Hooray, they are really buying their time. They are using these capital infused. Do you think they are happy to be the
Okay, to be CRO right now.
outsourced R&D for GSK? No, they're not, right? But they
Wow.
do realize, hey, we don't have the experience for running clinical trials, for commercializing products in the West, right? So this is the time for us. We're just buying our time so we can keep developing what we are very good at the same time learn all these processes through the collaboration with the counterpart. But I think the end game is really just to become the next MNC and just compete with them on global stage. I think that's definitely in the banks.
That's why I decided not.
Yeah, and that should be right. And I think it goes back to your earlier point, the legendary Chinese work ethic. I think it should be celebrated. Although I understand there are like psychological issues and so on and so forth with the 996 schedule, but I think this is one of our strongest asset. I mean, people in this room, we are successful because we work harder than many of our peers. I would argue, right? So that's one thing I think really differentiates the Chinese culture, the Chinese companies from their competition. So I think they all have ambitions, and they should have ambitions to become the next global player. But for now, they do recognize what's their best, strongest suit and what they should do next. And I like even in this very short period of time, 3-4 years in the past, that when this trend really took off, I can start to see the progression of many of these companies. I have a client called Helixon, Huashen Zhiyang. So they are
Shenzhen, right?
yeah, that technology it's Suzhou actually. Their technology is using AI to identify new targets and use them for antibody design, essentially, right? So a very, very young company, only a couple of years old. And then at the very beginning, their proof of concept was one particular target. And then they made a bispecific antibodies and did a deal with Sanofi earlier this year. I was part of that deal. Was $125 million upfront with 1.7 billion total. So it's a nice size deal for a young company, very small company. But they are not going to take that money and come back home and just do a next antibody and just keep doing this. So their ambition is, okay, now this is done. I want to have a more strategic collaboration with one of these pharmaceutical companies. I want to learn how we can keep some of these even earlier stage asset onto the market, right? Well, I'm gonna pump this out and I'm gonna learn the process, how you do it for the commercialization, for the clinical trials, and with the goal of in the future, I want to be like on the path to become one of these companies, right? So these companies are this trend always started not that long ago. So I wouldn't be surprised in a few years we'll see more of these ones. models and for companies. One way it's kind of for survival because of geopolitical tension. You want to kind of rebrand yourself. But most importantly, I think they do understand the upside is really at the last mile. We're talking about that.
But for the pharmaceutical, it will take a little longer than the chip.
Yeah, of course.
Japan, when can do your, yeah, it took them 10, 20 years really to get into the big player. Yeah.
Totally agree. Like talking down.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can take picture together.
One, two, three, smile. Try. One, two, three.
Thank you.
Thank you. OK，然后我就不 close it，我们就对，就非常非常感谢大家对这个 session 感兴趣。然后我们明年的年会呢会在费城召开，也会大家都到我们费城来。
您是在中国还是中国？
我是在北在 DC 的。但是我是看中国跟美国圈。对。
那个我们加一下微信嘛。
我还加了您微信。
对，我加了，知道我有没有在。
你扫我吧。
对，我想就是我那个后来我们是一块儿进去的。
没看这个，费城的
给你的现在来，对吧？对，
就是在高山或什么
DC
Boston。
那个我们你这个2周之后会在这儿吗
？2周之后，
就星期六，你会在这儿还是在那条
？2周就应该在。对，
我
只有那个周末在。好，对，前面也不在，后面也不在。
我是那个3个。
然后
会长
对，然后呢，那个我们会25号有活动，对，我觉得 I love to hear more your story。对，如果你要愿意来，我们有一个那个，
今年是300来。
不，3DC 就是万源 DC。
对，你在这个 Open Level，
在那搞，
今天也在。
我们这次在 UMD，就 Coffee Park。你住在哪里？
我住在不列斯坦。
OK， 不远，估计20分钟是个忙。对，然后我其实
年会，
这个我们其实在上海年会，我们每年搞4个活动，就是4个。对，25号，10月25号。对，看能不能过。
对，我以前其实第一次来了挺多的大办活动。今年还是拿准备的，我因为差不多还没有完全定下来。对。下周也是星期都会在。对，这边我给环境的说。我那个就是3次应该是那天最大的3次。
你叫什么公司？我主要对这个，
我的话应该对。
好的，对，很高兴啊。如果你要是能过来，来讲讲，
是我自己学好的。对，
很多这个 story 啊，这个旁边
300多个老师，好多很多人都是。你看刚才前面那个会长是常辉也是。对，没在这儿。那你对
我在公司好几个公司，
也是在
在第4年，在这。
CAST-BOS。因为学生也有好几家 law firm，然后会有一些有些时候这些活动，他会 sponsor
我看有好几个 spin-off。
对。
所以以前看那个变成地产了。对，后来这几家公司搬走了，搬到西安，一个投资都是投加州那边。对。
是那家。
那是他们的，是跟我的我干这个
公司这边还有这边
有可能是看投资或者是看投资人政府是很经常想做这件事情，但是政府我们那个一直想就是2、3行一直想搞一个就 investment forum，但是就是很难搞起来。对，那有一些那搞那讲对，要不就去，要不就去那个，或者去那Morgan 去那San Francisco 对，我去法国的 research 在那个1500块呀，哇，每一次都会租一整个。我这儿回去之后，你给我发个你的邮件，我让我们给你发个邀请。啊，你每次见面我们也会说。
那个团，CEO 团，那有一些CL 公司、Summer 公司，心脏非常
跟那个因为您是公司主要是做什么？
然后那个
啊，对的，这里说的，
说实话我也
非常，你看到一些个，还有就是FA 之类的，大家FA 不错，这个这样的意思是
他们看的，对，就是只要你到这边来，或者美国的找中国的话，一样的。
现在，但是我的那个 site 呢，它有它是的，
对
quality 做 quality
，feel 的这种，
地
的这种，
或者像
去年今年或者淘汰滴滴到美国的来自那个，就是 Academy 应该做到，所以中国的你想这2、3年里，美国的地球一年是中国的强侧。然后呢，他就是一直是大家都看好这个票，但基本上都往外撤。我们是 double down，我们是招兵买马，对，结果这个派的一 turn 的时候就全都是我们。所以为什么我们在香港的 IPO 也有50%这样子，在那个 licensing 里又有
哇，这现在这个大半老板相当于是战略，就是
他是这个很天然的。在美国的 IPO，就是在 healthcare 跟 life science 这个 sector，每年 IPO 第一时间4、5年都是第一。IPO 数量，所以我们在 life science 非常非常大，所以这对我们来说是一个 logical choice。所以这样的话，香港 IPO 也好，美国 IPO 是纳斯达克。我们用 IPO 成功了。下个面吧。
是的，你看，
能不能明天不给了？不好意思，我明天
所以我的客户，他明天给水了，然后美国1半以上。
所以你就想现在就有40%是在。
如果说只是我个人来讲，当然也有这边的生活。但是你说
这个我上面都是讲。那刚才没有那个会说，但是我是觉得就是有几点，一点是你看那种 clinical stage，该来自己也来自差不多。
我觉得是不是有可能有科技的买挺多的，超级的可能
还有在中间可能。
但是比如说 gene therapy 那些，在美国大概
政府的一个
对，因为现在美国在勾引大，
对，用中国政府的话呢，就集中力量大事。
那个就是我家的方面的确是oncology，
中国的它的技术更
包括 antibody 啊，
没有一些
比较成熟，所以大家对来说比较容易
ADC
啊，能够下手，基本上都是。还有一个呢，这个比我们刚刚做完好，而且那个推的有那个那波还没来，我不知道后来了之后对那个资本市场的影响会不会很大？因为美国很清楚，大家都就是 based into 吧，就是大家都知道啊。大概差不多有2/3的 deal 最后是会被他们只有大概1/3能够在税够一起过来，对吧
？1/3就很好了。
当然，我们现在assumption是你当来次进来的时候，你就过了phase 1，对吧？有 phase 2跟 3的淘汰掉2/4左右，那差不多。但是中国的投资人，包括那个新浪的投资人，都还没进过那一波。所以当他们看到一个一个都被退回来的时候，会腰斩就没了。对应的什么？他对点，然后要怎么说？到时候市场可能会打成，然后所以这条有点在
几百万的 这边是你看，这边是我们先
是，就是像好多我觉得已经完全
，CR 部门就是这个，
就是
就是
很会，
关系部门，
像经理就是
他们
很大的那种，他们我觉得会
就是
开过来，
天天找
就是
就比一些，所以
这我也不知道还有怎么做，
其他都是错的。
对对，把这个，但是这10个视频
多少时间里面
还在，
他可能
把它
在
就是当于就把它，就比如说就跟那个，对，
加上就是真的是
对它的是影响会非常非常
100亿上千亿，
对，
你像我一跨
第二个呢就是它
所有的那些那个方法一下就变成竞争对手，你就不是他的合作伙伴，对吧？所以他这一步不敢轻易。你一旦踏出去，对，
那这么想
啊，
哪一期呢？我找 AC，找沃尔，找我的项目合作，对，就是说我口 development asset，我这个他可能我就会想同样的战略，只要这样的不是完全的产品经济，对吧？然后把一期这种还挺成功的，
这个我觉得是
不是要
接下来都是这样。
是图这种
对 share the benefit，we share the
说它
risk，we share the cost，
它可以为几倍甚至10倍。
那更早期那些包好像没有2个人就完
一年大概几千亿往里投。就你说我们为什么这个从业人员多了？因为他这个行业多嘛，他就拼命招人，他这边有机会，他拼命去都学一学的都往这边去走。所以就是中国呢，
光是对海外面
但是你的创新能力不足，所以很多人呢，他挺好的创业。
相当成。
这个是
没有另外一个的话，
从一定程度上就造成了，但是他就是用钱，就是烧出来一个时间，就是把这个时间烧短。
甚至像
自然发展的话，可能要20年、30年，
双方面都有。
烧的是
整个我那个说的严重一点，整个一个是可能就是创富的一个点，他可能到时候今天新闻报发一什么东西，这不就完了？
他如果不比如说他写到 OBI，他还是要还有细致，他也是这种思想。
应该到时候都行，应该结束了吧？
好，那个行，李会长，我尽量对，
我到时候给你发一个消息啊。
好的，谢谢。
好的，OK。
因为你没有用的是
Cell therapy，我记得第一个是这边也完了。
这边我不知道，我在看我的外面还有点事情，就是。